Greetings, I'm Demonac, and it's Hearthstone time.
So Hearthstone's got a couple sets of balance changes coming, and I thought I'd just go through them quickly because they're going to affect a lot of things, including the arena, obviously. They found that a lot of people are playing Shaman, and one of the cards that was causing problems, these are the ranked play changes first, which obviously still affects the arena. They found that Rockbiter weapon was too flexible, part of too many combos, it was just doing too many things. They're bumping it up to 2 mana. Doesn't seem like a problem to me. That seems pretty reasonable. It's still an extremely flexible card that still does all the things it used to. So, yeah. They considered changing Tunnel Trog and Totem Golden because they're both really strong, but they're also both leaving Standard soon. They thought they'd change more long-term things. They're nerfing the Tuskar Totemic so that he can only summon basic totems, which I think that is probably going to piss off a lot of people, because that makes him so much less interesting. Like, he's still pretty okay. If you consider 3 mana for a 3-4 worth of stats, which includes the abilities of one of the totems. On balance, that's not that bad, but it's definitely crap compared to the guy who could potentially summon you a Vitality Totem, or better yet, a card drawing totem, or a friggin' Flame Tongue Totem. Not to mention, he could just summon you a Totem Gold. Those were all pretty strong. So he's been made much weaker. He'll probably be less automatic inclusion in less decks. I'm gonna have to see if I'm including him if I'm taking him out of my deck. Interestingly, I wasn't playing with Rockbiter weapon, which doesn't mean that I'm smart. They're nerfing it for being in every deck. It wasn't in my deck, but he was. They're changing Call of the Wild from 8 to 9 mana. This is Blizzard. They run the stats. According to them, it was doing too well for an 8 mana card, and at 9 mana, they think it won't be automatic inclusion in every Hunter deck. I can't see changing an 8 mana card like this to a 9 mana card making all that much difference, considering what it is, but okay, I'll take their word for it. They're making Execute 2 mana. Execute's really, really strong. It's just really strong. I don't think making it 2 mana makes it a bad card in any way. It just makes it harder to, it just slightly reduces the amount of stuff you can do in the same turn that you execute something, which is on balance probably pretty good. They're radically changing charge. They said, okay, the only thing charge was good for was non-interactive strategies, where you're trying to kill your opponent in one turn. So we're going to redesign it so this might get played, but won't be usable for that purpose anymore. So it's literally, it reduced it to 1 mana, and no longer gives the bonus. It's just give a friendly minion charge, but that minion can't attack heroes in the turn that you play the charge card. So you only use it to have one of your minions smash some enemy minion. I don't know how many decks it's going to be in. I think that's probably a good change overall, because the using charge combos to obliterate your opponent in a non-interactive fashion can't have been good for the game. I don't know if this will see any play. I mean, it's still, you play a minion, and for 1 mana more, it can charge, as long as you're not hitting the other player. Well, killing minions is very valuable use of charge. You just charge different kinds of minions. Used to be you would charge the minion with the biggest attack. Now you're trying to charge the minion with the biggest hit points that has enough attack. I don't know. Abusive Sergeant. Well, I think we could see this nerf coming, because he's amazing. At 1/1, it's going to be interesting to see if I should be taking him in the arena. Certainly it would lower the priority that I would be taking him, but his ability is really good. He's like a Rockbiter weapon that happens to give you a thing. Like, he's actually not a Rockbiter weapon. Now he's much less strong than Rockbiter weapon. Prior, when you were getting a 2/1 out of the deal, that was pretty awesome. But, yeah, at 1/1, he doesn't fight for crap. He's literally, you're putting this card in your deck as a +2 boost to a minion, which is great, that leaves you a piddly 1/1 on the table. Yeah, it's definitely going to change the math when choosing him in the arena. It'll be interesting to see if I find him still worth taking. And they're trying to figure out how to nerf Yogg Saron, because there were actually some high-level tournament decks where he was causing certain decks to win more often, which isn't what he should be for. And I agree, I mean, I would have made my game 1,000 times less random in the first place, but at least they're aware that they don't want tournaments being decided by who Yogg Saron randomly pyroblasts 3 times. So, just to avoid nerfing him completely, but to also make him less incredibly OP, they just changed it so that his spells, his constant gigantic stream of infinite spell randomness stops as soon as he dies, silences, or bounces himself, basically. If he, like, polymorphs himself or something, the spells will stop, because he's no longer Yogg Saron. Which doesn't even change his card text, interestingly enough. I think that's definitely an improvement. It's not really going to improve it from my point of view that much, because he's still going to be super atomic random. It's just that his super atomic randomness now has a significantly higher chance of failing. But anyway, I mean, you could cast him, and the first thing he does is assassinate himself, and then spell over. So, that would be satisfying for me, because I don't play him. But they've also made a bunch of changes a little while back that, or I don't know when they came into effect, actually, but they said they were going to make them a little while back. They were looking at the arena, and I've mentioned a couple times that they say Mage and Rogue are kind of like the top 2 most powerful classes. Then Paladin is like 1 tier below them, and then everything else, which move around but have all been kind of the lower tier. So they've gone and done some really weird sort of tweaks, because for balancing the arena, they just say they're just taking out certain cards from each class. And sometimes they're taking out cards that are crap to make the class stronger. Sometimes they're taking out cards that are overpowered, like for Mage and Rogue, but they don't want to take out all the good cards. They're not trying to take out the most powerful cards, because they want the classes to retain their really signature characteristics. They're not going to, like, take out Fireball, because that's what Mage does, is fireball things. You know, they're not going to take out whatever, like, Backstab or Eviscerate or something like that. Those are, like, the rogue cards. So they had to figure out what is going to be around for a while, but is, like, powerful and and just trying to tweak the math somewhat. It's pretty interesting. So, for Mage and Rogue were, of course, the most powerful ones. Mage, they took out Forgotten Torch, which was giving you 2 removal spells in your deck for the price of 1, and the 3 for 3 damage in the arena, perfectly solid. So the fact that you get a cheap Fireball later on was good. Snow Chugger's pretty strong. It's wow. Does it ever? Because its stats are good for the early game. Its ability is crazy for the late game, and plus, even at any stage of the game, if you're against a class that relies on weapons, there's that potential. If you get board control, you can just lock them down, and they'll never be able to weapon you again, which is asinine. You can do the same thing with the Water Elemental, but it costs a lot more. It's not like an effortless thing that, oops, just won you the game. It's not like a 2-cost minion that can suicide itself to stop a gigantic minion from hitting you for that critical turn. Then they're taking out Faceless Summoner. That's the mage one, the 5/5 for 6 that gives you a 3-cost random minion for free. That thing is really, really strong. I can't imagine. It'd be hard to envision a circumstance where I'm building a mage deck that came up in one of my common rows and I didn't take it, because it is, like, super amazing. So they did that. The rogue change is really interesting, because what they're taking out is they're taking out Goblin Autobarber and Understudy Valiant, which are both just a 3/2 for 2 class minion. Now they're each a 3/2 for 2 that also gives you additional damage and or removal. So those are pretty strong things, but it's just such a weird, interesting, targeted change that they think what they need to do to reduce the power of Rogue in the arena without modifying what it critically does is take away some of those extra, just really strong turn 2 options. They're still leaving you like the Defias Brothers, Thugs, whatever guys, that gives you 2 minions for 2 mana. That thing is awesome, but it requires effort, unless you're going second, in which case you coin it out and you're like, ha ha. But, yeah, it requires effort to set up. The Goblin Autobarber does kind of require effort to set up. I can see how later in the game this is way stronger than most 2-cost minions. And early in the game it's still 3/2 for 2, so it was awesome. And then the Valiant, again, 3/2 for 2, and then if you combo it, you get that one targeted damage, which is pretty damn strong. So let's see what that is. Paladin, they're actually just okay with. It's like, we need to make the other ones stronger. But it gets really weird when you start going through these lists, because for all these other classes, some of the cards they're taking out are terrible. And some of the cards they're taking out, I'm like, that's a pretty good card. It's interesting that they'd be trying to make them stronger, but also tweaking them by taking out things that may be strong. Like they're saying, okay, we're taking out Vitality Totem. Yeah, you can get in a defensive position where this is like working out for you, but it's a pretty weak ass card. Dust Devil is garbage. So it's garbage that has a tiny chance of winning you the game and a really high chance of screwing up your first 3 turns and you just lose because of it. Totemic Might is like a pretty silly, not good card. I can't imagine anyone's taking it. So by taking this out, it's not like anyone was taking this card anyway, but they're taking it out so that when you get that common row, I think it's common, you have a better chance of getting something that is good instead of having one of your picks wasted on Totemic Might. Ancestral Healing, same sort of thing, although Ancestral Healing isn't that bad a card, but they've got the math, like, how often would I actually pick it? Because it seems to me like 0 mana to full heal a minion and give a taunt. Design-wise, this seems like a perfectly good card for 0 mana. Seems reasonable to me, but I'm sure they've done the math and found out this is not a helpful card in the arena on average, so fine. It's probably also not taken very often, so that's okay. Then I'm like, Windspeaker and Dunemaul Shaman. I'm like, wait a second. So Dunemaul Shaman is the 5/4 for 4 with an overload of 1. And Wind Fury. He's a death machine. There's a high chance that he just dies. Like, I would generally take the other one, the 3/6 for 4 with an overload of 1. The guy's like the same cost exactly, but he's a 3/6 who gets a random boost of +1 to 4 attack when you play him. I would generally take that guy over the Shaman because those extra 2 hit points make him way more reliable. But this guy can do 10 damage if he can just survive for a turn. That's craziness. Windspeaker, that's a solid card. I don't know why they're taking that out if they're worried about Shaman being strong. Like, maybe this is like too powerful while the rest of these are kind of garbage. And if they're taking out all these garbage cards, they need to balance it out. But for a common, you don't want your deck to be full of Windspeakers, but if you get out one big minion, including the Fire Elementals, which you guaranteed take if they come up, and you just Windspeaker that minion that's able to attack, you can suddenly do a whole bunch of burst damage, and you still get a 3/3 for that 4 mana. That's pretty awesome. So, okay, Anima Golem was unlikely to work out favorably. That stupid 9/9 for 6 thing, but at the end of every turn, not just your turn, it eats like eats a minion that you control or something. It's like, no, that's too expensive, too bad. Sacrificial Pact. Please remove that card, period, or it's just, ugh. Not only is it like garbage card, but it's a garbage card that is also a hoser. It's a piece of cheesy crap. Like when if your opponent makes a mistake of playing Jiraxis and you can blow up the hero, what idiot decided that was a fair design choice? It's just stupid. That should not exist. Curse of Rafaam. Unless they put in any other cards to support this kind of strategy, it's just off there on its own. It's like you could see making a deck around that theme, but it's the only card of that theme of trying to force your opponent to spend mana or just take damage. And without anything else that cooperates with that, except arguably the 2/2 that makes minions cost 1 more, whatever. It just isn't likely to ever work out, especially in the arena. Sense Demons, yeah, that's not particularly good in the arena. There's a high chance it's just going to give you 2 1/1s that you still have to pay mana for. But then, and Reliquary Seeker, it's trash. You have to have a full board when you play it for it to not be trash. Succubus, cost is too high. She's not good. Get rid of her. Void Crusher, I'm a little surprised at. He wasn't like a high priority for me, and he's like a rare or epic card or something like that. 6/5 for 6 or whatever his stats are, pretty solid. The inspiration destroy a minion on both sides thing, that feels like something that is a potentially strong strategy in the arena, unlike the Anima Golem, which you have like no control over. This seems like, yeah, you could probably get good value out of that if you're trying to play with a Warlocky sort of strategy of trying to get out lots of minions, which is in the current environment a pretty favorable strategy. You may not have the combo for it, but you don't need to have some combo card like the Tentacles or whatever for this to be functional. It might work out well. It's annoying that it kills itself sometimes, but there are times when that could be a valuable choice. It seems like I don't know. It doesn't seem overpowered to me. It also doesn't seem like cripplingly weak where you should get rid of it, but I don't know. Druid, they're getting rid of Savagery. Yeah, Savagery's a crap card. I mean, the cards that you use to support it, the removal type cards that just give your hero attack, those are all fine cards, but they're not good enough that you're going to fill your deck with all of them so that you can make your Savagery work out. It is so not in the same league as Shield Slam, despite being a very similar card. Poison Seeds? They've probably done the math on it. It always feels to me like this ought to be a reasonable choice because you could replace an enemy army of really terribly dangerous stuff with a bunch of 2/2s, but I can see how it probably doesn't work out that often. Soul of the Forest, that's pretty iffy choice. Mark of Nature, I thought Mark of Nature is a pretty solid card for the arena. Like, that's, unless I'm getting the wrong one. Isn't that the +4/+0 or +0/+4 in Taunt? That's a very flexible card. It's the kind of thing where I think this card is more valuable in the arena than it would be in like standard play. But there are a lot of times when being able to do 4 more damage to your opponent for that 3 mana, or turn one of your minions into a super taunt minion, or whatever, those are pretty valuable choices. Tree of Life is a stupid card to have in there. To heal both people up to full. Why would you pick that in the arena? And if you do use it, it's just annoying. And of course, Astral Communion, which is absolute garbage if you don't have some kind of combo for it. There's no reason for this card to ever be in the arena, so that makes sense. Warsong Commander, well, it's garbage now, so might as well get rid of it. Charge, which they're changing anyway, but I guess with the change it's going to be weaker and nobody's going to want it anyway. Although it seems to me like with the change that we just described in the other video, where now it's just 1 mana and it doesn't give stats and the minion can't attack heroes, that seems like kind of an interesting card, like an interesting choice to make in the arena, but it's probably still too weak. Bouncing Blade, was that really too weak? I think they might be getting rid of that because it's too combo-y, but I mean, you could get Bouncing Blade plus Axe Flinger, that'd be a crazy, like, combo that would do a lot of damage to your opponent. Maybe that's too strong? Then again, why are they removing Axe Flinger? I don't see why he's too weak or too strong on his own. With the Bouncing Blade, maybe, but they're getting rid of that, so, Rampage is like a sucker card. I know because I keep wanting to use it, but it is unlikely to work out well. For all its seeming strength, the actual way people play the game, it is hard to get a good Rampage off. And yeah, it's deceptively not as good as it looks. And Ogre War Maul, which is a terrible, terrible weapon. Why? I've complained about it before. Warrior has a million better options for weapon. If this was like a mage weapon, they'd be like, oh my god, I get a weapon, it's awesome. But for a warrior who's got all the good weapons, this is just a bad weapon. Just take it out, it's fine. Taking out the Starving Buzzard, yeah, it's surprisingly not so good anymore now that it's super expensive. Call Pet was a dumb card, because you can't stack your deck full of beasts to the degree it would take to make it worth using. I don't even like it in Constructed. Timberwolf, I'm a little surprised Timberwolf is that weak, but like, okay, I guess it only works on beasts. Cobra Shot's a bad card, but I could see taking it if it came up in the arena if I didn't feel like I had enough cards for killing minions. But on the other hand, taking this out increases the chance of getting some of the other way, way, way better commons that hunters have for killing minions. So it probably works out. Lock and Load is too combo-rific. Dart Trap is a little bit weird. I don't even know what to think about Dart Trap. Snipe, I didn't like Snipe. Getting rid of Snipe, probably better. Although, getting rid of both of these seems a little bit harsh for other hunter, trap-based strategies, potentially. Like, maybe these cards were made more appealing by that 3/4 that makes your secrets cost 0. I don't know. Priests are getting rid of Mind Blast, which seems like a priests are not dominating or anything. Mind Blast seems like, I don't know, not the worst thing, although it probably goes back to my original thoughts on it, which is that this doesn't affect the board state, you probably just shouldn't play it. But having a finisher like that is not bad. The fact that in the arena you could have like 3-4 copies of it, that could be pretty rough. Shadow Bombers, yeah, no, it's terrible. Why are you doing damage to both yourself and your opponent to play this crappy little minion? Lightwell, that seems like a weird one to get rid of, because Lightwell can be strong and hard to deal with sometimes. Power Word Glory, see, that seems more like... I've seen that be a very strong card a lot of times. I don't know whether some of these cards, like, I don't know whether they're trying to make priests weaker or stronger by getting rid of those ones, or Mind Blast. Confuse has a big effect. I can see why it's not good for the arena, really. It's a big effect to flip the power and toughness of, like, every minion on a board, but it's going to be harder to set up and have it be useful in the arena than it is in Constructed, and I can't imagine it's being used all that much in Constructed. Convert is kind of a weird card. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. It doesn't do much. Getting rid of Inner Fire, I don't know. Inner Fire is a combo card, but in the arena, it seems like a much more, like, it's a reasonably flexible card. It would be hard to set up those crazy, like, kill combos the way you might use it in Constructed play and ranked play or whatever, but in the arena, just having it for general purposes, you get out your Death Knight whatever guy, or Death Lord 2/8 guy, and then you like, oh, Inner Fire, he's an 8/8 now, and a variety of other situations like that. Were they taking this out to make Priest weaker or stronger? I don't even know. They've been, yeah. And they're considering some other stuff, like fixing or reducing the randomness of, like, what rarities you get. But they're also considering the ability to literally just add an extra field to their database for each card that modifies how likely that card is to come up in the arena, which would give them a lot more spot control over this stuff, rather than it currently just being every class common has the same chance as every other class common. Every non-class common has the same chance. I don't even know if that's the same chance as the chance for getting class commons. There are a lot more neutral commons, I think, but whatever. So those are the changes. Those are both going to affect the arena. And it'll be interesting to see how some of them work out. Again, like Rockbiter Weapon, Execute, those seem like pretty reasonable changes. Abuser Sergeant seems like a reasonable change, although it's going to annoy me no end, I'm sure. But I don't know how some of these other ones are going to work out. I don't know if I'm going to end up taking out my Tuskar Totemics from my actual, like, constructed deck. I'm sure in the arena it's still fine. It still gives you pretty good value for your points there, but for your mana. But anyway, those are the recent and upcoming changes, and yeah, let's have to see how they affect the arena next time.
If you found that useful or entertaining, or if you enjoy cookies, hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to Demonet Games for more Hearthstone Arena and other gaming videos.